Ben and Me, Chapter 9, War. Life at the vestry seemed very quiet after the excitement of living with Ben, but I felt the need of a little quiet just then, and the long days with my family were most enjoyable. Though life at the vestry was quiet, Philadelphia as a whole was not. Restless crowds filled the streets, and there were rumors of violence. There was loud talk of stamp taxes and other outrages of the English government. I gathered that Ben's mission to England was a complete failure. The war finally started at some place in the province of Massachusetts, and I thirsted to do what a mouse could to aid the struggling colonies. There seemed little I could do, however, without Ben, and it gave me great pleasure to hear that he was about to arrive home. All our differences were forgotten in the face of the dangers that threatened our country, and we plunged into our work with the greatest energy. As far as I was concerned, the War of the Revolution was nothing but committee meetings. Ben was on dozens of committees. They met at all hours of the day and night, and I was kept so busy rushing about gathering information that I often longed for the old days of lightning rods and other electrical catastrophes. Our most important committee was one formed to write what they called a Declaration of Independence. There were 5 on the committee besides me, but the only ones who counted were Ben and Mr. Thomas Jefferson of Virginia. Mr. Jefferson was a talker for fair, almost as bad as Ben, and they would never have made any progress had it not been for me and Red. Red had come up from Virginia with Mr. Jefferson in his saddlebag. Like his patron, he was red-headed, a fiery revolutionist, and a great talker. Scarce had they arrived before Red began preaching revolution to the mice around the inn stables. He soon had them organized and led them on several forays which caused the innkeeper considerable trouble with his guests. In spite of his radical tendencies, I could not help liking this young firebrand. We became fast friends, and I introduced him to many prominent Philadelphia mice of my acquaintance, who, though somewhat shocked at the violence of his theories, all admired his eloquence and capacity for leadership. This group held many interesting meetings in Red's saddlebag home, at which the problems of the day were discussed. At one of these meetings, Red brought forth for discussion a manifesto, or list of grievances which he felt we mice had suffered at the hands of our master, man. It began, "When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for a mouse to dissolve the bands which have linked him to his master," and went on at considerable length. While some of those present felt that our wrongs were slightly overdrawn, everyone was impressed by the force of Red's writing. So deeply was I moved that I borrowed it to read to Ben. This I did after his committee had adjourned at a late hour, having accomplished nothing. As I proceeded with the reading, Ben showed increasing signs of excitement. At its close, he burst out with pleasure. "Splendid, Amos, splendid!" he exclaimed. "It fits our case exactly. When in the course of human events, magnificent! Just copy it down like a good fellow, of course changing the word mouse to man whenever it occurs." "Are we mice or are we men?" I said. "Copy it yourself. I'm sleepy." He did copy it, and the next day it was adopted by the other members of the committee, all very much pleased with themselves for producing such a splendid document. Red, of course, was in a fury and orated for hours about this theft of his labors, but we all thought it a rather good joke on him. When, on the 4th of July, it was adopted by the Congress as the Declaration of Independence, there was a great celebration in Philadelphia. Bells rang, bands played, and boys paraded the streets shooting guns, pistols, and firecrackers, a most terrifying racket. Ben, of course, joined in these sports despite my protests and was noisier than any of the youths. He managed to burn most of his fingers when he singed my tail severely with a firecracker. I finally rebelled, threatening to reveal who had really written this declaration. He quieted down then.